also include the so-called West Bank and Gaza Strip?
Of course. Then that poses, if I've got any time in my...
Yeah, I think you've got a minute.
What that imposes is a division for the Jewish leadership in America as to whether they adopt Rabbi Kahane's proposal that the boundaries of Israel should include the occupied territories, or whether they accept Resolution 242 of the Camp David Agreement, which repeats in 3 cases that Camp David is founded upon Resolution 242 in all its parts. It means Israel must give up the territories occupied. And that's the choice that I think makes Rabbi Kahane so unacceptable to the American Jewish community, because he poses that question. To be a Jew, he argues, you must have the boundaries that now exist, including the occupied territories. As long as territories are occupied, the people that are occupied will always hate the occupied.
And that leads to the other side of the coin. For Rabbi Kahane, question may be a little bit argumentative, but I think both of our debaters can handle it. Since Arabs claim a Palestinian state existed, which was created and ruled by Arabs, can you give us the time in history it was created, where its borders were, its capital, what was its currency called, who were its leaders, what did its flag look like? Listen, I read them almost as written. Maybe you only have to spend a minute on it.
No, I'll spend more than that. There never was a Palestine, and there is no Palestine. And I think it's about time that we understood where the name Palestine came from. The name of the country was Judea. The Romans occupied it, exiled the Jews, and the Roman Emperor Hadrian, in an effort to eliminate the very vestige and memory of Judea, changed its name to Palestina, after the Philistines. Now consider carefully, what if he had not done so? What if he had kept the original name, Judea? In throughout the ages, it would be Judea, on every map, Judea, Judea. Would we now be fighting the Judean terrorists? In every normal state, in every normal context, it is a people that exists and that gives its name to the land. The Franks came to Gaul and called it France. The Angles called it England. The Germanic tribes called it Germany. Only in this absurd state does a Roman invent a name, give it to a country, and Arabs become Palestinians. What if he had named it Disneyland? The people who live in that land are Arabs, and I recognize them as such, as part of the Arab nation, and I respect it. And long may they live in any one of their 22 countries. God bless each and every one of them. But Palestine, there never was a Palestine. There was an Eretz Israel. Ask any Baptist. Just as it's about time that people knew what other names were. When you go to Samaria, you will find a town called Nablus. Don't name Nablus. The name of the city was Shechem. It's in the Bible. And if you ask people, why is it Nablus? Well, that's the Arab name. What Arab name? The Romans conquered the country. They changed the name from Shechem to Napulus, as in Naples. Arabs have trouble pronouncing a P. Napulus became Nablus. If anything, we should go back to the Italians. In short, there never was a Palestine. And when the British, perfidious Albion, took over the mandate, not only did they not fulfill the mandate, which was to create a Jewish state, but they cut off the east part of the mandate, which was to have been part of a Jewish state, and called it Transjordan. You want to talk about states that don't really exist, not only Palestine, but Jordan, nevertheless, I being basically a flexible person, would be willing, reluctantly, but for the sake of peace, to recognize Jordan.
Mr. McCloskey.
How about Syria? Would you recognize Syria? Would you recognize Iraq? They all fall within the area from the Euphrates to the Nile. What about Egypt? Is this just a conception, like a critical concept of the greater Israel, that we'll accept some borders, but not others, and that we want the borders that we have achieved by aggression and by force? It seems to me that if you look at the history of the world, what we did at the end of World War II, and what the United States led in doing, was to end colonialism and to end imperialism. And we stopped the British and the French and the Dutch and the Portuguese from regaining the territory that they had held at the end of World War I. Most of the countries of Africa, India, Saudi Arabia, came out of territories that had previously been held by imperial countries, colonial countries like Britain and France. At the end of World War I, the Picot-Sykes Treaty, a secret treaty which probably broke Woodrow Wilson's heart, divided the former Turkish and Byzantine area of the Arabian Peninsula between the French and the British. But that didn't mean that it gave the Jews a right to it or the Arabs a right. The British, in their perfidious way, had said in 1916, they had said to the Arabs, if you'll fight with us against the Turks, we'll give you your independence in this area at the end of World War I. At the same time, in the Balfour Declaration, they said, we will look favorably, if you Jews will help us in the war against Germany, we'll look favorably upon the establishment of a Jewish homeland. But the Balfour Declaration also said that it will not be in any derogation of the rights of the people living there. When the Palestinian Mandate came into existence, there were at least 8 times as many Arabs as Jews living in that area. No one suggests that in the West Bank and Gaza, 4 million Palestinians are going to return to live any more than the Israelis suggest that 14 million Jews around the world are going to live, or 4 million Jews today live in Israel. The fact is there ought to be in Israel, and there ought to be a Jewish homeland, but there ought not to be the derogation of the right of the people living in that area who have lived there for 2,000 years, long since the Jewish nation was overcome by the Soviets.
Rabbi Kahane, 2 minutes in rebuttal.
I think that when we speak about the question imperialism, colonialism, I would think that we should put an end to those things in the Middle East. It's about time that Iraq allowed the Kurds to establish a state of their own. It's about time that the Syrians did penance for the massacre of the Druze in Jabotinsky and allow the Druze a state of their own. The Sudan should allow the southern Christians and pagans a state of their own. I think that we see eye to eye on these things.
How about the Palestinians having a state of their own?
Absolutely. They can have Jordan anytime that they want.